Well, hello. How is everyone today? It's Granny's sister, Pearl. I'm the prettier sister and the smarter. That's right. Well, Granny has asked me today to read Matthew chapter 23. And so I'm going to just do that for her. She's out. She's getting her hair done. Yeah, she goes every Tuesday and Thursday. She goes to get her hair done. And so she needs it. You know what I mean? She needs it. So I'm going to fill in for her, okay? All right, let's go. Here we go. And when she comes back, I want y'all to tell her that you actually prefer me, okay? Anyway, enough about me. Matthew chapter 23. Then Jesus spoke to the crowds and to his disciples. The scribes and the Pharisees are seated in the chair of Moses. Therefore, do whatever they tell you and observe it. But don't do what they do, because they don't practice what they teach. Now, just to give you a little explanation about that chair of Moses, that was saying that they were seated in the seat of the law. And so they were the ones who were supposed to be teaching the law to the people and, encouraging them to walk in obedience to the law. But listen to what Jesus says about them. That, yes, they have the law, and he said, I just love this, because remember, the Pharisees are the religious people. We have Pharisees today. But I love how he says, listen, do what they tell you to do. So they were telling them the laws of God. He said, do what they tell you, but don't do what they do. Something to think about today, because this right here, the laws of God for the Jews, they had the 10 Commandments, as we know, which is the moral law. It is good, and we should all uphold that moral law. But they also were putting a lot of restrictions. They were adding to the word. Okay, they were adding on to the law. They were putting a lot of burdens on the people, and so today that could look like people who, claim they love the Lord. They know the Word of God, and they tell you, they're Christian, but by golly, someone says something rude to them, and they turn around and pop off to them with all kinds of attitude. That's hypocrisy. That's something Jesus is calling out. He'd say, no, you know the word, you know the law, but you're not acting, you're not obeying it, you're not walking in it, you're not practicing it. So anyway, he was saying, don't do what they do, because they don't practice what they're teaching you. That's a hypocrite. Verse 4, dear. They tie up heavy loads that are hard to carry, and they put them on people's shoulders. But they themselves aren't willing to lift a finger to move them. That's what I'm talking about. They put burdens on the people. They do everything to be seen by others. They enlarge their phylacteries and lengthen their tassels. They love the place of honor at the banquets, the front seats in the synagogues, greetings in the marketplaces, and to be called rabbi by people. Do y'all know anyone like that, huh? I know a little folks here and there just like that. We all do. But Jesus is calling these ones out. Verse 8, but you are not called to be rabbi, because you have one teacher, and you are all brothers and sisters. Do you have any brothers or sisters, dear? I do. Granny, that's one of my sisters. I got all kinds of brothers and sisters, though. Anyway, verse 9, do not call anyone on earth your father, because you have one Father who is in heaven. You are not to be called instructors either, because you have one instructor, the Messiah. The greatest among you will be your servant. Whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. The way up in the kingdom of God is down. The way down quickly with God is to exalt yourself. Think real highly of yourself. Think of yourself better than others. God will bring you down. He'll humble you. That's in love too, okay? So what does he mean here? That we're not to call anyone father or rabbi or instructors. What is he saying? Is that literal? Well, he means what he says, but there is an application to this, and it basically, you can see from what the context, he's calling out the hypocrites. Am I right? Well, this is still within that context that he's saying that those, don't call yourself these things, because these were titles of importance. And so what he's doing is calling out their hypocrisy, and he's telling those who he's teaching, don't be like them. They love the titles. They love to be called the rabbis. They love to be called fathers and instructors. They love the praise of the people. And so that's what he meant by that. Okay, dear? Okay, verse 13. Woe to you. Now he's rebuking them. Here we go. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. You shut the door of the kingdom in people's faces. You shut the door of the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you don't go in, and you don't allow those entering to go in. So, isn't that interesting how these people thought they were the ones who were right with God? And here comes Jesus, who is God, saying, you actually are total hypocrites. You claim to be all these great things and think all these great things about yourself, but you're actually preventing people from entering into the kingdom. He said, you travel over land and sea to make one convert, and when he becomes one, you make him twice as fit for hell as you are. That's a strong statement, is it not? What is he saying? So when he's saying you're traveling to make a convert, this isn't making a unbeliever into a Jew or, into a Christian. That hadn't happened yet. What he's saying is that they would go out to find those worthy of being Pharisees with them, okay, and scribes. And that they would go and travel all these distances to find these worthy people. He says, but what actually ends up happening to them is that they get trained by these hypocrites into being more hypocrites. Something to think on, folks. All right, here we go. Verse 16. Woe to you, blind guides, who say whoever takes an oath by the temple, it means nothing. But whoever takes an oath by the gold of the temple is bound by his oath. That was something, a custom of theirs at the time. And he calls them blind fools. Jesus said it, not me. Blind fools. I know some blind fools. I do. I love them, though. But they're blind fools right now. I'm praying for them, though. Blind fools, for which is greater, the gold or the temple that sanctified the gold? Also, whoever takes an oath by the altar, it means nothing. But whoever takes an oath by the gift that is on it is bound by his oath. Blind people, for which is greater, the gift or the altar that sanctifies the gift? Therefore, the one who takes an oath by the altar takes an oath by it and by everything on it. The one who takes an oath by the temple takes an oath by it and by him who dwells in it. And the one who takes an oath by heaven takes an oath by God's throne and by him who sits on it. what in the world is he talking about? You know, there's applications to this too. One of them is that he said, just again calling out hypocrisy, that they gave more priority and I don't know what the word is, but they thought more about the gift that they were bringing and the material things, basically. They cared more about the physical material things than the spiritual things. He's just calling out their hypocrisy. They claim to be these spiritual people, but they care much more about the material, physical things than God's things, because he's spiritual. Verse 23, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You pay a tenth of mint, dill, and cumin, and yet you have neglected the more important matters of the law. So he's saying, yes, you bring your tithe, your tenth, but you've neglected the more important things. And listen what he says, the more important things, matters of the law are justice, mercy, and faithfulness. These things should have been done without neglecting the others. Excuse me. Blind guides. You strain out a gnat, but gulp down a camel. Interesting. You'll strain out, and he's saying, you focus so heavily on these things that don't even matter, like a little gnat. But all the while, at the same time, you're gulping down these camels, the things that are just so bad for you, so not good for you. Just like you can't get a camel down. It just doesn't work. What you're doing it's not working for you. Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees. You clean the outside of the cup and dish, but inside they're full of greed and self-indulgence. Blind Pharisee. This is a strong rebuke against these, y'all. First, clean the inside of the cup, so that the outside of it may also be clean. This is also more rebuking for the hypocrisy, because he's saying, oh yeah, you look real good on the outside, but inside, I see what's going on. It ain't pretty. He said, if you'll clean the inside up, if you'll focus on cleaning up the inside, your heart, your thoughts, your ways of doing things, the outside will automatically be clean. It's what's on the inside that matters, okay, dear? Verse 27, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. There it is again. You're like whitewashed tombs, which appear beautiful on the outside, but inside they are full of dead men's bones and every kind of impurity. In the same way, on the outside, you seem righteous to people, but inside, you are full of hypocrisy and lawlessness. That's something we need to look inside our own selves, folks. Verse 29, again, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites! You build the tombs of the prophets, and you decorate the graves of the righteous, and you say, oh, if we had lived in the days of our ancestors, we would never have taken part with them in shedding the blood of the prophets. Because Israel often killed their own prophets. They never wanted to hear what the prophets had to say. But listen to this, okay? So it says, now he's calling out their hypocrisy again, saying, because you build the tombs of the prophets and decorate the graves of those who think they're righteous. And you also say things like, oh, well, no, our ancestors did that, but if we had lived back then, we would never have taken part in that. No. Listen to what he says, though. Verse 31, so you testify against yourselves that you are descendants of those who murdered the prophets. Fill up then the measure of your ancestors' sins. He's calling them out right there, saying, because under the law for them, that the sins of the father would go down, be counted against the children as well. So he's saying, by saying that, you're identifying and saying, yes, we admit those are our fathers. And he's like, well, guess what? That sin is going to be visited upon you. You may not have been there, but you're going to... And why is he saying this to them right here? Because they are making a claim that they're better than their ancestors. They never would have done that. And he said, well, guess what? That sin is coming upon you. You're going to be held guilty for that, even though you weren't there. This is under the law. Snakes, brood of vipers. How can you escape being condemned to hell? This is why I'm sending you prophets, sages, and scribes. Some of them you will kill and crucify, and some of them you'll flog in your own synagogues and pursue them from town to town. So all the righteous blood shed on the earth will be charged to you. From the blood of righteous Abel to the blood of Zechariah, son of Berechiah, whom you murdered between the sanctuary and the altar. Truly, I tell you, all these things will come on this generation. Listen to Pearl. Jerusalem, Jerusalem, who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, as hens gather their chicks under their wings, but you were not willing. That is a somber statement. He's calling out their hypocrisy, but at the same time, he's showing them how much he loves them and how desperately he had wanted to forgive them and to bring them under the care of the Father's wings, to bring them under the protection and give them the grace and mercy of the Father. But they refused it. Oh, verse 38, see, your house is left to you desolate. For I tell you, you will not see me again until you say, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. This was a heavy chapter. Stuff to think about. We need to ponder. Are we hypocrites? Are we saying one thing with our mouths but living totally contrary to what we're saying? Do we claim to love all people but then turn around and gossip or criticize or get bitter and hold offense towards people? Well, I just wanted to tell you that, dearie. Again, this is Pearl. I'm Granny's sister. Granny's going to be back soon. But again, remember, you tell her you like me more. Okay? Don't forget. We had a good time, didn't we? It was a real special time. Always a good time for me. I hope I'll be able to come back to you. It'll be on a Tuesday or a Thursday, okay? Because that's when Granny's out of town, or Granny's getting her hair done. But anyway, y'all be blessed. And someone will be here with Matthew chapter 24 next time.